Hi, and welcome to the Frankfurt Book Fair Masterclass, The Art of Being Found, Marketing and Discoverability. A masterclass inspired by Edgar Allan Poe. So, what has Edgar Allan Poe to do with online marketing, you might ask? And who is this guy who will tell me about Edgar Allan Poe and what he will do for my marketing success and selling more books? Well, I might ask myself the same, but when I prepared this masterclass, it came to my mind that during my time at university there, I read this essay by Edgar Allan Poe called The Philosophy of Composition. And I think some crucial measures of online marketing are reflected there already by Edgar Allan Poe, namely the unity of effect he evokes, that meaning that every word, everything, every sentence in a short story should contribute to the effect to be achieved with the reader, or in our case, the consumer, the reader. And secondly, the unity of the logical method, which means that everything is deduced or by means that can be followed and measured and maybe also reported in our case. So, having said this, these two terms of Edgar Allan Poe will follow us through this masterclass, and I think this makes it of the art of being found. But before we start, you might ask, I mean, I already said that, you might ask yourself, who is this Albrecht Mangler with this complicated German name I can hardly pronounce, and who is he? And I might have asked myself that, and I asked ChatGPT, who is Albrecht Mangler? So I'm head of marketing for Bilandia Open Publishing. We are a German uh, publishing provider or solution provider for the publishing industry, namely distribution of ebooks and audiobooks with Zebralution. And at Bilandia, we do online marketing campaigns for books since 15 years now. We won several prizes for online marketing, among these several times the book marketing prize of the Leipzig Book Fair. Yeah, and this is the challenge we face for discoverability and visibility. So there are so many titles online. I think in Germany alone, it is around 80,000 new titles every year. And yeah, will the titles find be yours? So today I will guide you through three things. Here's the agenda. For the connoisseurs, I attributed some of my favorite Edgar Allan Poe stories. I will not go into depth, but if you're an Edgar Allan Poe aficionado, you will just see maybe the allegories for these. So in the first part, there will be the art of being found, what muses are there, and what is the reception in your target group. Then the first step, metadata for your products, books, audiobooks, and so on, to be visible in shops and on your website, leading to e-commerce and performance advertising. So you will be found and your ads will converse, or there will be good conversion rates, and yeah, you will sell your stuff. And then for all the social channels like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, but also Spotify, Pinterest, and whatever is relevant for your target group, we have a look at the three types of content there are: owned, earned, and paid content in social media. And then very important, reporting and reflecting on the measures you have been applying, and then also adjusting and maybe seeing, okay, I hit this target group there, I have to change here a bit to meet the requirements of the other target groups. And then it's time for a few questions. But before we start, I thought, let's pretend we are, for a moment, our own customers and we place ourselves in their seat. So maybe some of you know the next slide already, but I think it's quite illustrative. So please tell me, which number has the occupied parking lot? I mean, occupied by the zebra driving the car. Okay. I give you some time to determine the algorithm. But still, I mean, if you don't know the slide, or maybe you already figured it out, but if not, place yourself in the driver's seat and look at the parking lots from the eye of the zebra, and then it suddenly gets very easy that the number of the parking space is 87. So this meaning that if you put yourself in your customer's shoes, on your eyes, where will they park? Which are the platforms they prefer in what lots or channels do they choose? So this reflects on the customer journey of your customers or your readers. Where are they using the internet? Where are they buying? What are your favorite platforms or marketplaces? And it's your job to make it as easy for them to park, so to speak, and buy your products and your books. So, first chapter, the art, its muses, and its reception. So, as I said in the intro, for today, I will introduce you to two principles who drive visibility and discoverability. First of all, the unity of effect. I think it's quite important, and it may sound trivial, but in practice, it's quite hard for marketing measures to achieve the unity of effect because there are so many stakeholders. You have newsletter target goals, you have goals for social media, and so on. And the unity of effort is aiming at uniting them at one point. So you have your branding, you have the effect that is defined your goals that you want to achieve in the reader's or bookseller's mind. And this by the logical method. That is a marketing method that is analytical and methodological. That means that you define your channels, you clear its measures, and you also say, how do you measure success? I mean, for example, you can have quarterly measures and then reflect on if you met them or if you don't met them, and then adjust. So it is a creative and yet figure or number driven process where you define your goals creatively and then measure them ongoingly and then maybe also adjust your goal. But having that there are the three muses. By this, I mean, what are your consumers or your target group, your readers doing online? In the past, or you might know all the approaches of AIDA, attention, interest, desire, action, but I prefer a more verb-driven approach, which means we look at the people and what are they doing online. And I'd say at the moment you can identify three different areas what people are doing online. They search information, news, knowledge, products, entertainment, and so on and so on. So if you help them to find you in a relevant context, that makes you visible, and also it's good for your books and your products, which in context makes it easier that when people seek to buy something out there, you have to make sure that your products are available in the relevant platform, marketplaces, and shops, and they are fully equipped with data. So this means they showcase what they are about, they showcase why they are relevant for the respective target group, and they may give a short glimpse of what they offer in their content or content-wise. Yeah, and there's the last one, which means scroll, or hopefully not doom scrolling. So you identify the relevant channels for your publishing brand or your product, your books, and then you communicate, advertise, and engage in a way that is relevant for the people when they scroll through their social media feeds. So these are the three main things you have to have in mind when you think about the unity of effect and the method and the logical method to achieve it. But then, talking out the muses, there are ways of measuring them. And these are, I'd say, the three most important things: reach, relevance, and conversion. And what is very important to say in this respect is that all three of these dimensions are just achievable in the long run. So I think it's maybe with some kinds of advertising, it's easy to reach high reach numbers or high CPMs, but you have to build your whole marketing or the whole unity of effect around the relevant measures to sustainably achieve these success in these three areas. So build your marketing around the relevant search engine, shops, and social media channel. consider the channels where your target groups or your readers search, buy, and scroll in your marketing mix, and build a customer journey where you can attribute where you meet them for which muse, and then attain relevance and conversion. But all these, having already said, these are things that are long-term goals. So build slowly and don't lose patience. It's also a long-term game. And attribute resources to automate highly standardized processes. I will show you an example later, for example, giving categories and keywords in the process of sending the product to the relevant shops. Yeah, and here again, unity of effect. Pay attention that you have everything set to the effect you want to achieve in the audience. So let's dive into the metadata part for shops and website. I think this is the basis for visibility, as this is the equipment your books have when they leave the publishing house, and this is what showcases their USPs and what makes them unique. So just a few things that are important. Maybe most of you already know them, but here's just to summarize. It is important that you have a cover that is also optimized for thumbnail height or thumbnail view, as it's not a bookstore where people scroll or browse the books, but you also have very small screen sizes, very small screens where your books are shown in a row with other covers. Then you can optimize your text for SEO. I would not do it the old way, like keyword stuffing, but write relevant texts that show the extra value the book provides to its readers. So make it a coherent and valuable piece of content with the reader in mind, or the bookstores, so they can see this. And also think about strategic keywords and sharp categories. Where does it fit, and are the keywords relevant to the target group? So, for example, there's one thing I had in my practice. There was a book, it was about knitting, and the keyword was with 5 grams of wool. And I was asking the customer, why is the keyword 5 grams of wool? And they said, yeah, that's because with 5 grams of wool, you can knit your first piece. And then, yeah, I said, okay, I didn't know that, but maybe you should put the keyword with wool for the first piece to knit. And I think this is a better selection, because it immediately shows the readers that you can have a book about knitting where you can start from the scratch, and you have your wool for the first tries already included in the book. Yeah, and then define your audience and have clear targets. So this, of course, is important to write the keywords, blurbs, categories, and everything. And also for further marketing to create the content that engage, we'll see later. Now you might say, okay, you tell me to have unique keywords and everything, but we do the same kind of book. We do romantasy, for example, and in a way, every romantasy from enemies to lovers novel is the same. So then let me show this next example. Because even though things or people in this case appear to be the same, you always can distinguish them by one single keyword. For example, in this slide, you have two people, both born in 1948, grew up in England, are married, have 2 kids. They love skiing and winter sports and their dogs. So how will you know who is who? And by adding one single keyword, you will immediately know who it is. So the keyword King of England and Bite Bats on Stage will give you a clear notion of he is meant, King Charles and Ozzy Osbourne. So metadata is also something that identifies and gives relevance and clarity to the products or to your books. So maybe if you think, okay, in romantic novels, it's always about romantasy, think about what makes them unique and why people should buy it and what is the unique selling proposition that you have that you should buy it or people should buy it, and then include one or two keywords that distinguish them from other books. And this is already very, very good to make them visible. If you enrich them with other content, the better. So in this section, I wanted to include another thing that is really interesting at the moment, is that the classical, or I would say classic search, is changing. So some of you might already or are using AI-based search like Perplexity or ChatGPT, and people do this more often. And the classical search engines like Google and so on, they get less and less requests. And as you have probably seen, Google already included a AI section on top of most searches. So AI search optimization is beginning to evolve, and it's currently called GEO, means generic engine optimization. So just a few thoughts for this, because I think it's quite interesting. And at the moment, from my perspective, AI search engines offer very good or illustrate or very good results when it comes to products. So in this case, I searched what are the best three thriller novels for my holiday in France. I like suspense and clever criminals, but not violence. And then here I have the three suggestions and I can immediately buy it. So, I mean, geo or whatever you will call it, I think it's something that is evolving at the moment. So I think it's about experimenting what works and what doesn't work. But I think it's important to have it in mind that search in general is changing, which uh, which will affect the visibility in the future. So here are a few things I or we found out by trial and error, which might not be valid as a rule in June of 2025, but will qualify as a starter point uh, for your experiments or your trials in this case. So queries in AI search engines are in a question prompt format. For example, in my case, what are the best thrillers for my holiday? So I'd say, if you look at AI search, is the AI with its training data knowledge and also the search engine and results. And the AI will look through the search engine results and then summarize it for you and have a look also at its training data. So I would say SEO or good SEO is also a very good basis for good geo at the moment. So create relevant content, FAQs, landing pages, everything. So traditional SEO. But then find out about the frequently asked questions around your content. There's this tool, Answer the Public. You can check it out, and then you can enter a keyword, like in my case here, crime novel, and it will give you the number of frequently asked, searched, or asked questions for this case. So what is the best crime novel of all time, and so on and so on. What are the top 10 mystery novels? And you could use this to write sections that like mirror the way the AI search engines are used by their users, and therefore be more relevant. Also, they say that uh, that websites like Reddit or other forums where people discuss about things, and they basically the content there is also in question answer format. So this is popular for the AI search engines at the moment. So I start from this point, and yeah, I just wanted to give you the inspiration of looking at this. And also to make it even more complex, this is also related to audio, as you could like use ChatGPT or Perplexity by audio on your app. And yeah, then it's also, I think you won't scroll 20 results in the future. Okay. So, and then, as I said before, there is a second example, how to use AI in the metadata workflow. So the first thing is so the question was, how can I use AI to help generally highly standardized meta book for books, as in Onyx? And as in my example, it's keywords and category. For example, Thema, Bisec, and in Germany, there's something like called Lesemotive, which give an orientation of what the target group is to expect from a certain book. So the necessary input for this AI usage should be as short as possible. So you don't have to upload the whole book, which is, of course, nothing we want. And we want to avoid hallucinations, because in my trials in the past, ChatGPT liked to invent new thema categories or new bisect category, which it thought would be more valid, but yeah, they didn't exist. So also, we want our output to be in the style and tone of the respective publisher, meaning coming back to the unity of affect. For example, you are a publisher uh, of crime novels, and all your program wording is in crime novel style. So also your metadata and your texts should be in crime novels, so this should be reflected. So this process turned out to be very effective. So step one would create a prompt as a prompt template. So then create the authoritative files to upload. This means that all your categories or something that is standardized, you create as a CSV or JSON files, meaning comma separated values or semicolon separated values, in general in a very technical and plain format, which is not giving ChatGPT the space to hallucinate a lot. And then you give this content with your prompt template. Then you should evaluate the output in a hermeneutic process and learn what are the strengths and weaknesses. I would recommend to start with very popular or books that you know what the output should be, and then go to the more niche or specialized books when you already know that your prompt or the process is giving good results. And also try different large language models or different AI tools, as for example, some of our customers say that Claude gives better text output than ChatGPT in some cases. So how will the prompt template look? So I think this follows some general guidance on how to prompt. So you have a role, you set to your AI assistant, in this case, you are a metadata and e-commerce expert with many years of experience. Then the goal of the task, you optimize the metadata, in this case for the book 1984 by George Orwell, which is in this case already in the training data of the book of ChatGPT, at least some of its content. If you want to create something that is not already there, you can upload a small excerpt or marketing text. So not too much, but maybe 1,500 to 2,000 words, not words, but characters. And then the task, fill in the template I provide, here it's above, and create an output as a table. So it's good to copy and paste in a Word document and send it to the college. And then, of course, restrictions, very important. Do not hallucinate, stick with the book. Use only the uploaded thema categories and lesemotive from JSON. Use them and relate to the briefing doc. And the briefing doc will come later. And if you like to have an XML file as output, you can have an XML file as output. Please note that you want to have a fully fledged Onyx XML file as output. You have to specify here all the specifications of Onyx, which is a task for itself. So maybe for a trial, I would skip this point and just have the table. So what is the prompt template? It looks, for example, like this. You have the book trade keywords, and in the brackets, you have the variable which is going to be filled in by ChatGPT, for example. So 5 content-related keywords, and I chose to have 3 e-commerce-related or purchase-related keywords. So you give more power to the e-commerce. Then basic categories, the thema, category, and qualifier, a suggestion, and the code, and then reading motive code, which is appropriate, and the reading motive. And then you control the process by the files you upload, and you specify a briefing document. The briefing document is quite nice because you just create a Word or TXT file where you add the rules that are important for you. For in this case, I got them down here. And to control, I have the word Glitzergut inserted in every output when it makes sense, but at least once. So this is something during my trials, I inserted to make sure that it really paid attention to the document I uploaded. Exactly. So, but also in this briefing document, feel free to specify your target group, to give more information about the book itself, the author, for example, make everything that is important to you, or even if your tone, you can give example text, write it in the way like this and like this. So, for example, if you have a kind of text that you know was very performant in e-commerce context, you can just give examples and then ask your AI assistant to stick to the way it was written. And then everything runs, check out the output. And in this case, these are the keywords, transaction, keywords, bisect, category, and so on. Lesemotive. And it was inserted Glitzergut here in the note. This is something that happens frequently because it doesn't really fit in the keywords or the categories. So the LML, the language model or the AI assistant chose to give it as a Glitzergut tip. So that is about the dystopian core theme and not the other elements of the book. So then you can see, does it meet your requirements and so on? Is it the right qualifier category? And then just take the table and export it. So also nice to try different LLMs, ChatGPT, even the version 4.0 and, for example, o3, they are different in output quality, Claude, Gemini, and also Mistral, if you like to give it a try. Okay. The cask of Amontillado or e-commerce and performance ads. So now in the last section, I've shown that it is important that your books have a good and rich set of metadata that makes them visible on every platform, Amazon, for example, or other online shops, so people find it or it is possible to find them. So now we look we now look a layer above that. So if you think about where are your readers, they don't use just one store, so you have to be present at all digital shelves. So you can think about metadata that is optimized for the different platforms. So for example, you know that people in this context are different, and you have a different target group or different people in this context than in this, or this shop prefers another format or other content. You can go into the particulars and go live everywhere with your specially selected content. And also important, other than in the bookstore, in the offline world, people cannot go around and take a book and just browse through this page, browse through the pages. So they scan through the content and see what's more relevant. So please pay attention that your unique selling propositions or your unique selling points, your extra value is clear in seconds. So in general, I think that different theories, but you have, I'd say, 3 seconds to show that your product is the most valuable for the context of the potential reader. So give info, but also the info which is the most relevant in the beginning. So I've read many texts which begin like, the press loved this book and so on and so on, and the value comes at the very last. So I would switch this around and say the most important thing and top position, and then you can go on about the other things that also are crucial to the book or important for the book. And as in SEO in general, more info means more trust and more sales, and also give small samples and so on. And also be clear. So here's an example, a clear landing page from our Lismio app. So you have the audiobook, You have a short description. You have the services where you can stream them. And yeah, here's also a small star rating. And it's immediately visible for the customers or the readers, the listeners, what it is about. You can see the cover. It's very good. It's good readable. You see where you can stream it, and it's immediately giving you access to the content, to the contents, and also where to stream it. So you say, okay, but Albrecht, you showed me there will be so many titles on all the e-commerce platforms, and I know that landing pages are important, but how can I direct people to them? So here, for example, is something that is very successful in terms of performance ads. You can use platform ads for performance. So in this case, it's Amazon ads. In this case, the search ad where you have when people search for something specific, like in this case, audiobook crime novel, you can have your books at the top, like in this case, the Küstenkrimis made in Germany, or if you go down, Der Würger von der Cater Street, and it goes down and on, and it looks like a search result, and has this small sponsored on top. So you see it is an ad. In my experience, this is at the moment a quite effective measure of platform advertising and performance ads, especially for categories. So if you have a category like crime novels or crime audiobooks, it's very, very good. If you have single titles, it's also worth trying, but but you cannot have, as it's one book, it's not very scaling. So you have to wait for a longer time, but it's also performant. Okay. Now we have the metadata. We are present on all the platforms. So if we come back to the muses, we are all set on search and we are all set on buy. But all the people, if you look in the public transport, they are scrolling their Instagram and they are scrolling their TikTok and they are all on influencers. So the last step in this is the media game in the relevant channels. So generally, it is effective to distinguish between three kinds of content. There's own content, paid content, and earned content. And yeah, what? But of course, everything is media. So just to define this, own content is all the content that you have on your channels, for example, on your Facebook fan page or your Instagram, or you have on your TikTok account or your X account or whatever. So you control the message. It's in your branding, it's your channel, it's your content you probably planned in an editorial plan. So this is called owned media. Then there's paid media. This is connected to your ad spending. So you pay for the reach, you pay for the ads, it's performance ads, it's catalog ads, for example, on Meta. You have your Instagram ads, you can have ads for your events and so on and so on. So everything you pay for directly, this will be paid media. And then there's earned media. I like to put it so it's something that gives you back something. So it's for the influencers who love your book or love your publishing brand, or yeah, they share reviews, recommendation, they upload videos, they say they love the book, they love the authors. And this is the so-called earned media because you earn the trust, you earn the feedback by your own media, by your product, or also by your paid media. And yeah, the combination of all three is important. So the visibility in the realm of the muse scroll is sticky. So think about what are the relevant channels for your target groups? Where are they? Is it the website alone? Do you have a newsletter where you can reach your target group? What social media channels are relevant? Is it TikTok only or Instagram, or what about X? What about other like more niche channels where you can be present? And think about your tone and your embassy on each channel and what is it for the respective target group. Think about what is the extra value, for example, to follow your brand or your publishing company, your author on Instagram when you already are a subscriber to the newsletter. And yeah, try also organic and paid media in combination. Often you can see what kind of ads perform well and then take it as an inspiration for the editorial content and also look at what is trending on TikTok, use it for Instagram then, and also on Facebook. And also think about other channels, Spotify, Pinterest, and so on. Are they relevant? What kind of content will be working in your favor? What kind of content will spread your products and your message? Here it's, as in all the other points, very important to plan and to analyze the post and to adjust. So I'd recommend give yourself a goal for maybe a month, 2 months, and then see what parts of it did you achieve, what did you learn, and maybe there are also inspirations you can take on for your product or for further development in the house. For example, we had a customer, they had cookbooks or food publishing. And when on their Facebook page, they said, oh, just do all the ads just for women because men, they don't love cooking. And in the end, it turned out that we had a target that we reached many, many men with the ads. So they changed their posting strategy and had different books where they thought they would be more adequate for both target groups. So this would be also something where you can learn where and maybe even widen your target group and also be more relevant on the respective channels. And also very important, coach your authors to participate, to build their author brand, to be part of the journey of the publishing company as well as also their readers and engage. So you will build a base that you will be able to use effectively with your owned and organic content. This leading to, yeah, the simple fact that the more you will be in touch with your community, the more effect you will have with the organic content. By collaborating with influencers, you can even have a bigger impact in respective target groups. For example, you can say it's important for me to be present with Bookstagram or BookTok, but you can also say, I have now this books for parents of young children, so you can search, or it's good to search for influencers for family or mama, papa influencers and ask them if they can represent or collaborate with a book, show this book, present the book, so you reach new audiences which are also interested in your product. Which meaning think outside the book bubble. Book is a very great product which is relevant to many, many people, and they just have to learn that there are books still. And yeah, let your authors be your guests, follow your authors, make them your creators or be their creator. It's not a one-way street. And exactly so. This just more inspiration, provide early access bonus content behind the scenes, whatever you think is good for your target group and your readers. As before, I brought you a small example. So this is a campaign we had a few years ago. It had basically two phases. The first phase was to activate bookstores, because this is very important in Germany that bookstores are convinced to buy a book and then they have it on the shelves and people will buy it. So this was very spectacular in my opinion, because the publisher decided to send the bookstores a cardboard. This is one of the things you build from paper and then you put your phone in and then it's kind of like 3D goggles you can walk around, or AR goggles, virtual reality goggles, and it's really immersive to look. And the book sellers, they could enter their phone and go to a website where they saw a virtual space where they could interact with the author and explore the area or the place the book was set, and really engage with the content, feel how the thriller was feeling and working. So this worked pretty well, and the bookstore holders were quite happy, or they were participating a lot because also it was something new, and of course the book was also great. So phase two was the web and social experience, not only for the bookstores, but also for the readers. So we had owned and paid content leading to respective website, which shows a creepy basement with which mirrored the book setting and some pieces to interact with the author. And they could just visit this page and it was something special, or it is something special where they can see the page and explore the setting. So we achieved the following goals. We integrated the stakeholders, namely the bookstores and the readers. We had a creative and immersive concept cross-channel strategy, which involved both offline measures and also online measures, which concluded or which both combined high reach, readability, and also conversion. So it was very nice. And you might ask yourself, what did this creepy basement look like? And of course, I have an example for you here. So this is basically the website. You can move around freely. And there are photos and small videos in there you can watch. You can open the door. So it's kind of an ego shooter style thriller browser. So my browser game is a big word, but here it's a small word from the author, Bernhard Eichner. Of course, you could buy the book and dive deeper into the story with some extra animated stuff. Okay, so here again, back to unity of effect. Build a strong narrative and spread it across all channels. I think if I say it now, it sounds easy and it's two short sentences, but I know from experience that in reality it's very hard to be with one narrative at all channels. You have to adjust, you have to tweak, but in the end, it pays off to have one campaign idea that can really be understood by everything with the unity of effect, where you think, okay, how do I have to tweak this to have to work there? And then you have your measures with the muses. You have owned, paid, earned media. You can also go back to the metadata. You have offline actions, and this reflects on the whole customer journey where you affect or where your customers see it by searching, by buying, when scrolling. So in an this will be the experience driven by the unity of effect. Okay, so now we have done everything so well. We have the metadata, we have the e-commerce optimization, we have the performance ads on the platform, we have the performance ads, we have the media channel set, we have our social media, and now we're done. Not because it's very, very important to check the responses. So set your goals for defined time frames and don't hesitate to change them if you don't achieve them. Select the measures for your goal. So is it interaction? Is it reach? Is it conversions? And stick to your measures. So often in practice, it is that you want to reach everything. So you want conversion and you want also reach and you want also interaction and you want traffic. But this is not all possible at the same time. So think about the muses and think about the dimensions, so reach, relevance, and conversions. And each dimension, each muse has its own goals, and you can go and reach them. To go into more depth, if you have, for example, a traffic campaign on Instagram, so Instagram algorithm will optimize your campaign so that people who like to click on ads will see this. So this is a difference to interaction where Instagram algorithm will determine people who like to interact with content and not so much visit other websites to be inspired. So the goal interaction will spoil the goal of conversion. So with one interaction campaign, the goal traffic is not included. So make your goals clear and measure them and set up and test tracking as good as possible. I know that tracking is very hard to set up, especially in the book world where you have so many shops and so many attribution. But if it's possible, you can do what you can. I mean, using UTM codes, for example, to see who is visiting your website. Or you can also have, if you have an own web shop, you can use funnel analysis to see where are the breakpoints, where do the people leave the cart, or what do they do on the website. And if you like, and you have the possibility, you can create a dashboard, for example, on Google Looker Studio, which is for free, and you can get an instant overview on a daily basis or weekly basis. You can even get an automatic email, which give you the key KPIs every day, so you can see how your campaigns are running and how you're doing, and yeah, learn about your target groups, your buyers, your readers, adjust and reflect your measures and your goal. Not everything at once, but also to think that everything is a long-term goal and measure bit by bit. So here is also an image of a dashboard we built for a campaign. Here you see, for example, the target groups, the devices that were used, the channels. You see the different KPI, you see the cost and also the reach and the through place. And you have at one glance, you have an overview of if did you reach the target group by age, for example, or also your main settings for the campaigns. You can have, as I said, send this via email every day. Okay, so summary of this masterclass. Unity of effect is very important. Integrates and makes your marketing effective if you have one effect in mind. And the dimensions are reach, relevance, and conversion. These are also reachable if you work with partners, for example, influencers or service providers, agencies, and use a logical method, not be clear and transparent, be analytical and have clear goals and measures, and measures that you can actually measure. Gut feeling, for example, is not really measurable. So, and also clear your expectations a bit. I mean, very much is not as clear as saying, I want 100 clicks, for example. Your marketing muses are search by scroll. This is what people do online. And also think about your content strategy, owned, earned, and paid content to be visible. This can also reflect or be drawn from your metadata, as we saw in step 1, to be visible and discoverable. And this is where the AI assistants come into play. Think about highly standardized processes, which you can automate or you can get help from or support from AI, which makes work or the process much, much more effective. Yeah, and last thing, be creative and driven by evaluation. I think for me personally, this is the most important because creativity is the most important thing about marketing, but the good thing, but also online marketing is also driven by numbers and you can evaluate. So it's important to be creative and also think about your creativity by reflecting on it and report to evolve your marketing. So that is the art of being found. And now I will look at all your questions. Hold on. I will just have a view on the questions because I didn't look at them while I was talking. Okay, the website for the Basenet platform unfortunately is offline. It was the URL bösland.de, which is now taken offline for some time. I'm sorry that I cannot provide this. Okay, if your book language is not English, I would use the metadata that is for the language of the book in the Onyx file, which is part of the metadata. So the question is, sorry, the question was, should I use English for keyword and metadata even when the books themselves are written in other languages? So I'd answer, please use the correct language or the language of the book and not English. It is because you also have a language determinator within the Onyx you give for the shops. So the language will be determined. If you have a target group that is very using English very often, you might include one or two keywords in English, or you can have both languages, for example, for the descriptive text. But in general, I would go with the books language. But for example, if it's maybe scientific or to learn languages, you could try for giving languages keywords and metadata in both languages if it's possible. Okay, scrolling through the questions. Okay, I have here the question from Fenna. What would a customer journey look like? And do you differentiate between formats? So customer journey at the moment is, of course, a big buzzword. What I meant by it is if you think of the three muses I just showed, then you have search, buy, and scroll, and you can think about your customer. Where will they be in these dimensions? Where would they search? Where would they buy? Where would they scroll? I think most relevant platforms in my practice are at the moment Instagram and TikTok, and partly Facebook. So if you say you have a book that will be reflected by this, you can just think about the customer journey that they will scroll on Instagram, for example, or they will look on TikTok videos if they are in a special target group, and then they will go maybe to Perplexity and look for book recommendations, and then they most likely will buy, I don't know, an Amazon or Barnes and Nobles or whatever. And you just think about where will your customers be for their activities online and where can you meet their respective needs in this context. This also applies to content design. For example, if I'm a fan of romantasy, what kind of content would I be? Would I favor on Instagram, for example? What kind of content would like to see on Amazon, and what will make the product relevant to me on an e-commerce platform, for example? So just have a rough impression where your target group is spending their online time. Okay, I have here a question of Aline. She asks, is there a method for boost recommendations and other forms of earned media? I mean, what we do for earned media is you can, of course, build your own base of influencers if you are in the book bubble. So you can have a newsletter or you can have a contact form on your website where you offer bloggers or Instagrammers or TikTokers just to subscribe, and you can, if they have, you can have your criteria, so they might get books to comment on or to show on the channels for free, or you write them, or you just approach them and say, hey, we have this book, we think this suits your channel, we can send it to you, and maybe uh, give it a recommendation or a short review on your platform. You can do this, of course, in different levels of structure or more or less systematically. You can treat them like journalists and then write them from time to time. You can send them influencer newsletters, but you can also have paid and earned media like intertwinkled. So you ask them, if I pay you something, will you review my book on your channel? If you have specially selected influencers with a high reach, this is also a very successful strategy. Or you could even have kind of brand ambassadors among the influencers where you say, okay, if you like my program, I would like you to give you the five to some books for the year. And if you like, please show them and you will be my brand ambassador somehow. So we have some, so in our work, we have some influencer teams for some of our customers, which are just reviewing the books and are kind of the influencer team for this, for the customers. Okay. Here's a question from Linda. What is the usual financial remuneration for influencers? What are creative ways for them to offer gains to their followers since Buchpreisbindung makes discount impossible? I would say there are two ways. So first of all, we have good experience for the so-called mini and media influencers, meaning these are people between 500 and 10,000 followers, that it's possible to engage with them if you offer a creative or inspiring way to interact with the book, and the book is very, very, very attractive to them. So we send them blogger boxes, for example, with goodies like cups, or we had blankets or cups sh- or some other specials, little games. So just to engage them with the content and make them curious about the book. So this is a strategy that can work. Speaking about the influencers with a higher reach or outside the book bubble, it's not forbidden to ask, but I would say reserve budget for it. It's very hard to tell. It depends on the target group. For example, parents or mama papa influencers. And for journeys, it's more expensive than some more specialized topics. So yeah, it's best to ask. There's no general answer, but I think it's in the area. So it is about, so it's more than 100 euros, I would say. Just everything is possible. And yeah, okay. There was one question about if there's an example of an author that was successful by using social media. I don't find the answer, the question now, but there's an example from German author Ivar Leon Menger. He had a best-selling thriller last year, and throughout the whole year, he was campaigning on Instagram. He even had a bet with his publisher. So if he was in the Spiegel bestseller liste, he would dye his hair red in Spiegel bestseller hair red, and he was campaigning in bookstores, traveled around bookstores, and everything was on Instagram. He was very, very, very outgoing and engaging with his community. So yeah, it was the base of his success, I would say, that he was so present and transparent on social media and also very, very reachable. So um, this is definitely a good example for an author in cooperation with the publisher, who I think organized the whole books, the events at the bookstores, and of course all the flyers and offline marketing. So everything together made the success possible. Okay, that's the rating. Thank you for joining, and it was a pleasure to have this masterclass. And yeah, thank you. Bye.